Hey everybody, this is Ramon Ray, founder of SmartHustle.com, Smart Hustle Media. Thanks for joining us for another exciting podcast. But we talk to business owners and entrepreneurs to hear their story, to hear their input. And I'm here with someone who I've known for many, many, many years. I think maybe I've shared the stage with Ingrid once or twice, but definitely in the similar vein of helping small business owners and entrepreneurs succeed. Ingrid Vanderveldt, thank you so much for coming to the, I was going to say line, it's really the video chat. I appreciate it.
It's pretty cool. It's great to be here with you too. And I love the little ding because you all probably see Allison Engel here, who Ramon knows as well. And right before we went live, she said, how are you going to let me know if you need me to come on? And he's like, ding. Exactly. So Allison, we're waiting for you.
Not yet. And I'll tell you, Ingrid, what we use that for in a minute. It may come up in the podcast. So you'll be surprised to know we do use that in the show. But Ingrid, give us, those who don't know who you are, a bit of a history of where you've been, where you're at now. I know you've done so much, but give us take a few minutes and help us unpack who Ingrid is, or affectionately known as Ivy. Tell us.
Well, Ramon, thank you so much. And I love that we're just having fun. I mean, especially during these COVID times, there's just so much sort of challenge and things that feel so heavy in the world right now. And to have a moment to just lift and uplift and connect with you, this is just wonderful. And to those who are watching, Ramon and I have known each other for many, many years, have walked a very similar journey. And I feel very honored to do that and to be on your show here today. The work you're doing is just fantastic. And as far as my background, so I am an entrepreneur. I've started and sold a number of different companies, different industries, some that failed miserably, which is a good thing looking back because we learn so much from these failures. But the common denominator of them is they've all been technology related companies. So have built these companies. I'm also a former business television host from CNBC. And then where you and I had spent quite a bit of time was when I became the first entrepreneur in residence of Dell Technologies, overseeing entrepreneurial initiatives globally for the business.
Absolutely.
What brought me there was this vision. I always say I grew up thinking I'd be a missionary at the age of 4. I knew I was going to serve women and girls around the world, just didn't know what that was going to look like. Realized it took failing a whole bunch of times in business to realize here's what you do, here's what you don't do, that my mission in life is to work to make the journey even a little bit easier with especially women, but priority women and diverse leaders across the globe to start, grow, and scale ventures. So I was inspired on a vision in 2010 to empower 1 billion women by 2020. That led me into that partnership with Dell Technologies so that I could figure out and work with them. How do you even carry out a vision like that? How does one person with an incredible team, of which Allison and I got to do together, and where again I met you, how do we build a technology platform that would have the opportunity to give women access to the tools, tech, and resources they need to succeed? So did a lot of that work there. And after I left there, took a little time off to invest. And since then have been doing empowering 1 billion women by 2020.
I love it. So you've had nothing to do. You've just been bored all day, just sitting, nothing to do.
Absolutely nothing to do. And I had to tell you, I was thinking the other day, I was like, man, thank God my 30s were like, it's so much fun where, I was still doing companies and stuff, but I managed to cram in there a lot of adrenaline sports because I really love that.
Okay.
But now in my 40s, I don't have time for it anymore. All we do is like, let's get out there and help more people. And, fulfillment wise, as I know you can relate to, it's just incredible.
Indeed, Ingrid. And I know you have one platform that you focus on probably 1,000 different things, but talk to us about EBW. What is that? Why should women or anyone care about it? And I think the website, what I have, ebw2020.com, if that's still the best place to go. Good. And so tell us about that. What's that organization, that umbrella organization about, doing so many good things? What can we find there, and why should we care?
Sure. So EBW 2020, it really is a social impact organization. We are a for-profit company. We do have a foundation as well. But underneath the EBW brand, we have one division, which is EBW 2020, which is really our education and our global chapter community, bringing together women across the globe who are starting and growing companies. And then over this past year, we've launched EBW Cares Distributors, which really does a lot of replicating a lot of the kind of work that we did in Dell, where we figured out the secret sauce, if you will, of Instead of entrepreneurs, man, woman, black, white, red, yellow, whatever, okay, it's something for all of us, but how do we build companies in a way that doesn't necessarily rely on investor financing or, let's go get a bank loan. And one of the things that we found at Dell during our time at Dell was there is a huge opportunity for entrepreneurs to really learn, how can I bring my innovation and creativity to add value to a corporation like a Dell, for example, and in that exchange of value, find myself a financially lucrative partner to help me grow my business. And so EBW Cares Distributors really set ourselves out to replicate that model to connect large enterprise, both public and private, with women who are starting and growing companies across the globe, where we pivoted in a really amazing and just, we're also grateful for the opportunity. Again, going back to what I said when we first started, when COVID hit, in my family, half our family are physicians. My husband's a first responder. And here I am, focusing on the economic and business aspects of things. But it was a phone call from my younger brother, who's an ER doctor in Nashville. He was 8 days, 6 COVID patients on the same mask. And literally every night they were putting that mask in a brown paper lunch bag and stapling it up against the wall, spraying disinfectant, sticking it against the wall. I mean, just horrific for our, hospital workers and providers. And he got sick. Yeah. And he called and just said, is there anything, given the global network that I know you have as well, but given the global network that you have, is there any way you can somehow help us gain access to the supplies that we so desperately needed? And I said, give me a few days. Let me look at this and see if we can help. I did due diligence, and on that was a Friday. By Sunday, I made the decision, I'm going to do whatever it takes, and I pray to God it actually works. By Monday, we had stood up the healthcare division doing PPE. By Friday, we had a soup to nuts global supply chain set up all the way from raw materials to the end buyers. And that business took off. And we're very proud of it because whereas a lot of folks did hop into the space, and as you know, there's a lot of questionable activities going on, a lot of price gouging. I mean, all of that. From day one, our whole team said, let's continue to operate with excellence in the way that we've been training women to do for years and years and years. And that is quality, the best pricing. Let's take care of our customers. Let's make sure they get exactly what they're ordering in a timely manner. And out of the success of that business, we've essentially continued to reinvest our profit to, instead of, it all coming back to these shareholders, especially after the George Floyd incident. And I'm covering a lot here.
Okay, I got you.
Okay, one quick question. But the thing that is just so special about what you and I are getting the chance to do and sort of where we are in this point in history is after George Floyd happened, it was very surreal in our household, married to a police officer, doing the work that we do. And we were all horrified. Sure. And I called the Black leaders on our team and said, what can we do? And then I called Ambassador Susan Johnson Cook, who worked under 2 presidents, and she set up the Global Black Women's Chamber of Commerce, and we're very close. And I said, Sujay, what can we do? And she said, support us, like help us. And so we took the profits that were coming out of the distribution company, and we essentially went on a robust recruiting campaign to find these women of color in the hardest hit cities across the United States who have lost jobs, lost income, their businesses have decreased, working moms, sisters, daughters, aunts. And we said, you know what, let's work together. Let's lock arms of all colors, all backgrounds, all everything. And let's work together to close the wealth gap, and let's help train these women how we did this. Let's bring them into the umbrella of what's created here, and let's spread the wealth. So now we're looking at the launch of, I know there were 34 women that went through training last week at EBW. And so I imagine somewhere between 25 and 34 cities will be opening up over the next couple of weeks, EBW Cares Distributors, where they're providing these much needed healthcare supplies to our first responders and healthcare workers. And so that's where we've been focused. And from this place, we're going to continue to expand on that expertise that we've developed to help other large corporations now engage with the marketplace in this way and create value and businesses together so that together we can all grow from a social, a health, and an economic standpoint.
Well, that's a soup to nuts. So what I'm hearing is that on one hand, selling and making money, a profit in some way for equipment that people want to buy and can buy. Other hand, taking that wealth, as you said, just repeating what I'm hearing, how can we train others, help people on the other hand? That's what I'm hearing. Is that?
Yeah. And I think, Ramon, and I know you share these values too, you know, again, granted, we're all in business because at the end of the day, we want to feed our families. We want to grow wealth. We want to reinvest that money and create other business opportunities. And for women, and this goes for many diverse leaders as well. We reinvest 90% of what we earn into our families, communities, and ultimately the world. And the bottom line with all of this that we're facing as we've gone through COVID, continuing to go through COVID, and all the race relations and all of this, that when I look at what is the fastest way that we're going to build the global sustainable future that we all imagine for our families, communities, ultimately the world, what's the fastest economic engine? What's the fastest social engine, the health engine? And Ramon, as you know, it's people that look like you and me who lock arms and say, our time is here. Our time is here to move forward. Our time is here to create these opportunities that spread the wealth, close the wealth gap. And we are prime, ready, able, and no better time than now to make it happen.
Your sneakers on or something.
Get those sneakers on.
Yeah. To me, Ingrid,
maybe we should do a race.
Hey, let's do it.
I'll do it.
But it seems to me like this is what business is about. I think it's not I may say it clumsily, but a two-way street where I'm selling something to somebody who needs it and I'm earning that. But I think most everyone I know, it's that third leg, whether it's disadvantaged or not even disadvantaged, just I want to help. It's that third cheer. I'm earning money so I can boomerang it because I want to give it to a school, a single person and buy a slice of pizza for a kid or give $100 million for whatever, meaning that's the beauty of business. And I think you're right to some people, as I even caution entrepreneurs, I hear some people from time and time again say, Ramon, but I want to sell this pen cheap because, you know, I want to help people. So they cringe a bit, but I say, no, we're going to sell this pen, if it's a pen, you know, at a great profit and make great money so you can have the income to then really help those who you need, if that makes sense. That's business, how I see it.
And I think it was actually, and whether people love him or have different opinions of him, but I believe it was Russell Simmons. And from an entrepreneurship standpoint, he is an incredible entrepreneur. And he made the comment, he said, you know, if you want to help the world, it makes it a lot easier if you can show up and write a check. Yes. And I think, you know, similar to as you're talking about when you're mentoring or coaching business owners, I know when I'm talking to women because I know I dealt with this early on, that I was like, oh my gosh, I have this mission-driven heart and I'm doing this because I so believe in it. And I had this struggle with the money piece of it as well. And it was when that click went off in my head that I was like, wait a minute. When you, being those watching, really come from this place of, you know, no one is you and that is your power. And how can you serve the world with your very unique gifts and talents, whether it be a product or service, or maybe it's both. Okay, so you're going to somebody who is really in need of what it is that you have. And all of a sudden you show up and you're able to say, I can help you solve that. Okay. When you solve that for them, it's opening up more business opportunities for them too. And the way that they say thank you is by writing you a check.
That's right. That's right.
And so you're giving others the opportunity to fulfill what's in their heart, which is they want to give back. They want to find the Ramones. They want to find, hopefully, the Ingrids. They want to find the...
Maybe. We'll see, Ingrid. Maybe.
We'll do our best.
Yeah.
But, you know, they want to find folks like us who, yes, profit's really important, but we're here because it's the right business, it's great business, and it's really, you know, we're here to make impact and really transform the world into the one that we want to see. And we get to do it together.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ingrid, one of the things I want to touch on that you mentioned is about this aspect of smaller companies. They don't have to be smaller. I know you want women to generate as much wealth as they can, but the typical smaller company working with a big brand, Dell or whoever it may be, I think there's a gem there is that to those listening especially, and let me know if you agree, Ingrid, that many times we think I'm very small. What will a large company want with me? I was talking to a big proverbial billion-dollar company, probably multi-billion-dollar company today. I'm a small business owner, as you know, and they shared with me their biggest problem. Ramon, here's our problem. Here's what we're trying to do. Now, I can't help them, Ingrid, on the billion-dollar level, but I'm like, got 75K lying around, got 100K lying around. I can help be a part of your solution. So what I'm trying to say is that big companies do need small businesses. It's our problem. It's our responsibility to ask that question, to listen and find out, here's how I can help you, if that makes sense. Maybe they want credibility. Maybe they want validity. Maybe they want just a face, influencer marketing, kind of what I do. Does that make sense, Ingrid, what I'm trying to?
Oh, it makes total sense. I mean, it's that whole idea of 91% of women, and this goes for diverse leaders too. 91% of women do not trust that whether it's a corporation or a politician or whatever, understand us, right? Because, and again, I always say, God bless the guys and God bless the white guys. I'm married to one, birthed by one, clearly. We can't elevate together if we're not doing it in partnership with one another, but let's just be honest, because that's how we're going to fix this. And the reality is 91% of women do not trust that corporates or the policymakers actually get them. But here's the magic in what happens when a woman or diverse leader sees that one of these corporates or a policymaker is saying, you know what, Ramon, I get that I don't really get where you come from. Or Ingrid, I get that I don't, there's nowhere I could because I don't have your experience, your history, my experience is totally different.
Sure.
Now, when women see that a corporate or a policymaker is authentically trying to help them succeed, this is the magic. 79% would at least try that product or service.
And that's all the corporation needs. Oftentimes,
that's all they.
Yeah.
Well, and it gets better because presuming it's good, 80% will become loyal to the brand. Wow. And then the super kicker, and this is where we built this massively fast growth business at Dell that we did it on like hardly any money and the profit was huge. The reason for that is because those pieces put together, 92% of women will word of mouth pass on the good word. So now all of a sudden, and they'll get all their friends to buy and they'll get them to vote. And that's the power, Ramon, that people like you and me bring to the table. People can't engage in an idea or a corporation or a policy if it's being driven by people who don't have our experiences at all because we don't have a seat at the table. Right. But when they say, let's work together, and we have that chance, now it's a completely different ball game. Sure. So it's very powerful.
Yeah, I want to dive into a few other things, Ingrid, but I want to respect your time at this point in the interview. Do you have about 10 more minutes or do you have to run? Do you have a hard stop?
I am good. Okay, My next one is half an hour from now,
good.
We're good. Yeah.
Good. I always, I know when you get into a good conversation. So a few more things, Ingrid. Talk to the ladies, female founders, women business owners. I'm sure there's a lot you could say, but what's the biggest message to them? Either what's the biggest challenge they're facing that you want to tell them, ladies, let's stop doing it? Or what's the biggest opportunity, however you wish to word it. In your experience, you're a team dealing with zillions of female founders over the years. Yourself is one. What's the challenge? Help us. The lady who hasn't been with EBW, who hasn't been with Ingrid, who hasn't been to the great associations and all that. What do they need to know?
Well, first thing that I would say is again, going back to what we were talking about a little bit before, there is no better time in the history of mankind for women diverse leaders to actually show up and bring our ideas to the forefront, because those that actually have checkbooks that can say, I can engage with you, they're looking for us. Their biggest problem is they cannot find us at scale. Okay. So it's up to us though, to show up. And I do coach women that, again, through love, and this is through my own experience. As I mentioned to you, when I think before we were recording, when I first started EBW, I said, let's tackle the biggest issue that women say keeps them from starting, growing, or scaling a business. And we will say it's lack of access to capital. Now, as an entrepreneur who, at this stage in my life, again, another story for another day, have had lots of failures. fortunately, I've had a number of things that have succeeded, that have done well. So it's given me the opportunity to invest and write these checks to make things happen. And now, as I'm saying that, I'm like, okay, what was my point?
Oh, no, we're talking about the biggest advice to women. We were talking about access to capital.
Thank you.
I know where you were going, but access to capital. I'll tee it up.
This is what happens when you're running a distribution company.
You and I think, but you were saying
we'll make it work.
Women say they lack access to capital, but is where you were at.
Thank you very much. And this, honestly, too, ladies, as you're watching this, I used to get so freaked out when that would happen because I give a lot of big speeches to thousands of people. And I'm like, you know what? This is part of it. This is what happens. And especially for moms that are juggling kids, I only have 4-leggers. But to get back to the story, so I launched EBW back in partnership with Dell and said, let's tackle this issue. We launched a $100 million fund by and for women. And for the next 3 months, not one woman showed up. The men did. And the fund literally said, by and for women entrepreneurs. And I was devastated. I was like, what is going on? If women aren't going to show up when me, these are my people, my women. Okay. How are we going to solve this? What I realized, Ramon, was that whole stat that less than 2% of women-led businesses ever get over that $1 million revenue mark. It really comes down to that book that talks about the confidence gap. And this is something that women, God bless you, and God bless us.
Yeah.
We don't want other people to know this, but this is the reality of it. It's a confidence issue. And so to combat that, and my advice back to women there is now, not only now is the best time, but don't get in your own way. So how do you get around that if you're like, what do I do? How do I? So the way that you get around that is, first of all, read a book written by a woman named Pat Pearson, Stop Self-Sabotage. We actually hired her to oversee our personal development. Somebody told me that we were going to do that 6 years ago. I would never have known that. But Stop Self-Sabotage by Pat Pearson. It's an incredible read, and it'll help you get out of your own way. The next step I would say is get a great mentor. Don't just get somebody that's kind of doing what you want to do, but go after the person that is really doing what you want to do, because so often people aren't asking that person because usually they're pretty busy and they can't take the time. And the fact that they don't get asked that often, you're giving them an opportunity to give back. And then the third thing that I would say on that is get involved with a community of like-minded thinkers. That's the power of what you've created, Ramon. We like to think it's part of the power of what we've created with EBW. There's an ecosystem here of people who we eat, sleep, drink your success. Yes. And we've been around the block more times than I want to admit, and we see things, and we're here to help. And so that's the advice that I'd be giving for women to advance forward. There is nothing that will hold you back any longer except for yourself. You can even come into, again, an organization like EBW, you're going to get a free education. You can join chapters, and if and as you qualify, like, you've got to roll up your sleeves and do the work. These are not handouts. You show up to the table and you can earn an opportunity to even open a business with us, where we're going to cover all of that infrastructure cost and make sure you're successful. So these are the things that exist now in the marketplace that frankly 10 years ago just weren't there.
Yeah, I think that's powerful. And I think what I'm hearing you say is that these are not necessarily negatives in men and women per se. I think we're just different, thankfully, wired different, our brains are different. But recognizing, as far as female founders, men have our own issues. That's what I'm hearing you say. And then, okay, I have this issue, which is good in some scenarios, but maybe applying for a bank loan, not so good. I'm doing this is kind of what I'm hearing. And then how to overcome it. And so I think we should all read that book. By the way, whoever emails me what Ingrid just said, that book, I will buy you a copy and send you that book. Please be in the continental USA. I just can't mail it to South Africa or Indonesia. I could, but please. So if you hear that bell and you email me, Ramon@smarthustle.com, I will send you that book. Ingrid, this is... That's
I
how
love it. I love it. You know, we're going to have to get Pat Pearson on your show. She is
love to.
quite fantastic. And as we've been building this She for PPE campaign, you can see it as hashtag She for PPE campaign, where again, we're helping women build these businesses with this level of support. I mean, it's people like Pat Pearson who is weekly getting on the call with these business owners and coaching them past, this is in addition to the business training, but she's coaching them past like holding, you know, the self-sabotage. And we all do it. We don't want people to know it, but we all do it.
And in different ways, I think what it is, because I think that's the thing. I think what it is, women do it however they do it because they're women. And I think us men, I know many men, in fact, Ingrid, see, as I say it, I can feel myself crying in my gut. If I talk longer, that's probably too late. Okay. I don't mind crying, by the way. It's just, I cry so easily, but I gave a talk.
I appreciate that. I mean, I was forgetting what I was talking about. Now Ramon's crying. Okay, we have a complete Barbara Walters moment on both sides. My ego feels restored. Thank you.
I love you. You're welcome. I can feel it really, but I gave a talk at South by Southwest 3 or 4 years ago about my struggles with depression and other things I've gone through. So my point being, we all struggle with things. It just, you know, we all just express it different ways. So, but Ingrid, this has been powerful. This has been just so powerful. What your team doing, your passion for female founders and your passion, I know, for diverse entrepreneurs and in general, but we all, you know, focus. Some need more help than others. So I just appreciate what you're doing. Anything I didn't ask you, Ingrid, anything you wanted to say before we end? You know, anything you wanted to add before we close out this discussion?
Thank you so much, Ramon. I'll add 2 things. One, thank you for saying that. I really, truly believe that the best way that we're going to be able to help our colleagues and our friends and our family elevate forward is, especially the more successful that you become, is admitting those moments that, like, you are such an amazing, positive person and a positive light in the world, just continuing to serve others, that on the outside, it would be impossible to think that you've ever dealt with depression. And I appreciate you sharing that, because it does give your listeners, all of us, permission to have that real conversation and to also see somebody that looks like us, feels like us, interacts like us, say, if he can be doing this and overcome depression or deal with depression, I can do it too. So point number 1 is just thank you for that. And the second thing that I would say is, if I may, I'll say 3 things. 2, make sure to watch this podcast, this series with Ramon. I mean, incredible information. And he's asking the questions that I know, especially as I was first starting out and growing, I wish I would have had the opportunity to learn. The third thing that I would say is, ladies, get involved with us. We'd love to have you. Come and check out hashtag She4PPE. Come help us.
Look below, look below. We'll put the link right there.
All right, look down there. Look
in
down there.
Post-production.
Yeah.
So what is
EBW cares.
Yeah.
She for PPE, this is, as I mentioned, getting all of these supplies. Basically it's this. This is the way to make money and make an impact in the world right now during COVID, when the rest of the world is not moving in the markets, nobody's spending money. Where they are spending money is on, give me the critical supplies, masks,